From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. Chapter 3. Afro-Asian culture goes to Europe. The Sumerians, Babylonians, and Ethiopians were black people. They contributed much to the advancement of civilization. Because they studied astrology, they were capable of formulating many principles of astronomy. These black people were so sagacious and skillful that they were able to divide the years into months, weeks, hours, minutes, and seconds. In mathematics, they developed the decimal system. The most famous of the Babylonian kings was Hammurabi, who ruled about 2150 BC. He was outstanding for his codification of a system of laws founded in retaliation as the punitive measure for crime. He also established a 7-day week, which the last day a rest day or Sabbath. This idea was adopted by the Hebrews and then transmitted to the Greeks, Romans, and other Europeans. The literature of the Babylonian is quite interesting. Long ago, these black people wrote with the sharp instruments on clay tablets. Thousands of these tablets have been found, and some of them disclose a popular work known as the Enuma Elish, or the creation epic. The story of how the world began derived from the Babylonians. After the dispersal of mankind at the Tower of Babel, the Black Hamites migrated toward the east, south, southwest, and the west. The Black Hamites settled in the land of Canaan. Later on, it was called Israel. The land of Canaan gets its name from the youngest son of Ham, who was Canaan. The Canaanites were the primordial aborigines of the land of Canaan. We may call them Africans because of their blood relations to the other inhabitants of the African continent. There were 11 Canaanite tribes living in the land of Canaan and surrounding it before the black Israelites possessed it. The greatest cultural and commercial cities of these black Canaanites were Tyre and Sidon. Sometimes written Zidon. The city gets its name from Sidon, the firstborn son of Canaan. Sidonians and the Tyrians were of the same race, and their kings ruled over both of these cities. In many history books, you will read about Sidonians under the name of Phoenicia. The Greeks called the Sidonians Phoenicians, land of palm, because they found many palm trees there. But the Sidonians called their nation by the name of Canaan or Canaan. Phoenicia, or the land of Sidonians, was located to the north of Palestine, along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, bounded by the sea on the west and by the mountains range Lebanon on the east. Tyre and Sidon were founded about 2300 BC. The Tel el-Amarna tablets show that Tyre was the place of great strength in the 15th century BC. Sidon was still older. For a long time, it was the only black Phoenician city known to the Greeks. Even after Tyre took the leadership, the Greeks and Hebrews spoke of the Phoenicians as Sidonians and kings of Ethbal, and Tyre is called king of the Zidonians. These black people were proficient in philosophy, astronomy, geometry, arithmetic, and navigation. They had good harbors, which enabled them to navigate to distant lands such as Cyprus, Sardinia, Crete, Rhodes, Cadiz in Spain, Sicily, Carthage, and North Africa near Tunis, Tangier, or Tangier, Ophir, or the Canary Islands. These Phoenicians were skilled also in metalworks, needleworks, embroidery. They extracted dye from shellfish abounded in the adjacent water. These dye became known as Tyrian purple. They made glass from the white sand of the Mediterranean coast. The Phoenicians spoke a Hamitic-Semitic language so closely allied to the Hebrew that the Phoenicians in Hebrew, though different dialects, may practically be regarded as the same language. As it was previously stated, there were 11 Canaanite tribes: Sidonians, Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgasites, Hivites, Arkites, Semites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and the Hamathites. Hebrew has its origin of the Canaanite language. When Abraham came from the region of Babylon into the land of Canaan, he found a Canaanite language similar to his own language. Abraham communicated very well with the inhabitants of the new land, adopted the Canaanite language, made certain modifications, and it became known as Hebrew. The Hebrew language was very similar to the Canaanites, says the Bible Dictionary. Phoenician and Canaanite can be classified as the African language because of the Canaanites were blood brothers of the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Nubians, Sudanese, and other Africans. The Phoenicians established a colony in the North Africa called Carthage, and they, the Carthaginians, always considered themselves Canaanites. When Moses led the black Israelites out of Egypt, northeast Africa, Moses died in the wilderness. Then Joshua led the Israelites into the land of Canaan and disposed of the Canaanites. Now, it is written in the Jewish book called the Babylonian Talmud. For when the Africans came to plead against the Jews before Alexander of Macedon, they say Canaanites belongs to us, as it is written, the land of Canaanite with the coast thereof. And Canaan was the ancestor of these people, ourselves. These Canaanites or Africans were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua. About 332 BC, Alexander conquered Palestine. As stated above, the Africans came to Alexander claiming that the land of Canaan belonged to them. The point that I want to elucidate is that these Canaanites consider themselves Africans. Consequently, we can correctly say that the Hebrew Canaanite language is one of African languages. Many of the private houses of the black people were equipped with cisterns in storing water. The wealth of Phoenician was predicated on clandestine technical procedures in manufacture, secret mine of advantageous and expensive metals, concealed secret trading posts in the remote area. The knowledge of navigation enabled them to reach the British Isles in the Arctic Ocean. The English alphabet derived from two ancient black nations, the Phoenician Canaanite alphabet and the Hebrew. The Phoenicians had a powerful navy. They were a great trading people. When the Phoenicians traded with the Greeks did not have an alphabet. As a result, they adopted the Phoenician alphabet in order to transact business. The Greeks passed this alphabet to the Romans, and the Romans transmitted to the German Anglo-Saxon tribes. When it was brought to the British Isles, the first two letters of the Phoenician and Hebrew alphabets are Aleph and Bet, which is similar to the world alphabet. The Black Phoenicians also gave a system of weight and measure to the Europeans. The city of the Carthaginians was called the Queen of the Sea. The Carthaginians controlled the commerce in the Mediterranean Sea. A new nation emerged in the peninsula of Italy, Rome, which challenged the commercial interest and supremacy of the Carthaginians of the Mediterranean. These states of hostility led to 3 long wars called the Peninsular War. The First Punic War was in the years 264 to 241 BC, mostly naval battles, which Italy won. The Second Punic War was fought in the years of 218 and 201 BC. A black general by the name of Hannibal was the extraordinary figure who did what was considered the impossible by crossing the Alps with elephants. In Italy, he was victorious over the Romans. He was very resourceful and crafty. When he got into difficult situation at one time, he drove herds of cattle into the Romans. His unexpected victories amazed and terrified the city of Rome. But at the end, because of the lack of men and supplies, he had to return to Africa. The Third Punic War was the year of 149 and 146 BC and fought at Zama in Africa. Because of Hannibal's skill in warfare, his strategy is taught in military colleges around the world. The Egyptians. The Egyptians are Africans and the descendants of the Hamites. All Hamites are the offsprings of their father, Ham. The first Egyptian called Mizraim. According to the Hebrews, the Mizraim was the son of Ham. Genesis chapter 10, verse 6. Ancient and modern scholars have established the location of Mizraim as Egypt. The word Mizraim is the plural form meaning Upper and Lower Egypt. About 3,300 years before the Christian era, Egypt was divided into 2 kingdoms. A great black pharaoh king named Menes united these 2 kingdoms by conquest. The later pharaoh wore the dynastic insignia on their crown, the snake of the Lower Egypt and the hawk of the Upper Egypt, representing the time when Egypt was divided. These subsequent pharaohs held the title of king of Upper and of Lower Egypt. After Egypt was united, her navy went out into Mediterranean and traded with the inhabitants of the coastal towns and islands such as Crete and Cyprus. Thousands of years ago, the Egyptians established powerful governments and built empires that extended in all directions. They even held dominion over their Canaanite brothers in Palestine for a long period of time. These black Egyptians were proficient in mathematics, medicine, engineering, agriculture. They used geometry to resurvey the land every year after the Nile River overflowed. Pythagoras, the Greek mathematician, learned mathematics from the black Egyptian. By the way, algebra came from the black Arabs. The word algebra came from the Arabic word algebra. It means the science of equations. When the black Moors conquered Spain and Portugal, they carried algebra into Europe, and Mizraim begot Ludim and Ananim and Luhabim and Nathuhim and Pathrusim, Chalsuhim, out of whom came Philistines, the Philistines, and Catholium. When Mizraim begot his children, they dwelled in Egypt, except the Catholium and Philistines, which inhabited the islands of Crete and the Mediterranean Sea. In remote ancient times, the people not only of Asia and Africa were black, but also the people of the southern Europe lands of the Mediterranean Seas. The black races that controlled the commerce and established colonies on the Mediterranean were the Phoenicians and the Philistines. Herbert Wendt, in his book, It Began in Babel, says that the Crete was the dominant power during the up and to the 2nd century. The Cretans' power could have been no other than part of the Phoenician Carthaginian Empire, because the city of Carthage did not fall until the year 146 BC. Where did the European civilization and culture begin? Scholar says that it came from Africa and Asia through Crete. Investigators consider Crete to be the birthplace of European culture. There are many myths surrounding by the island of Crete. One is, it was to Crete that Zeus, father of the gods, abducted Phoenician princess Europa and there fathered 3 sons upon her. Zeus came in the form of a white bull and abducted a black princess. Because the Phoenicians were a black people, some scholars believe that before the Indo-European penetration of the southern Europe and Asia, Greece was called Europe. Most likely, some Cretans settled in Greece. Herbert Wendt say that the name Europe is derived from the Semitic word Arab. He said that the ancient Asiatics considered the word Arab to be something dark, ignorant, and mysterious, and therefore Europe was the dark part of the earth. A social cataclysm, earthquake, struck the island of Crete and destroyed its capital in Konos about 2000 BC. These black Philistines migrate from Captor, Crete, to the land of Canaan and settled along southern coast of Palestine. The land of Palestine gets its name from the Palestinians who inhabited that region. And this concludes chapter 3.